All right, I think everything's set. Hopefully I got the volumes right between the different sources. This is watching. I know you guys are sick of me talking about this kind of thing, but sorry. I don't actually know what this one's going to be about, so. But I do see Rant on why the on app. Okay, sorry. Let me see this again. This is a channel called Maxotics. There's Rant on why after the microphone the preamp rules all. Okay, let me make sure I got headphones. Sorry. And I know you guys are sick of me talking about this subject, but you know, when people make claims, I don't know. This is like my trigger when people claim that magical things happen from magical devices. Once. Oh, sorry. Okay, so I don't know for sure this is what this is going to be about, but let me just pull up you know people who actually test this kind of thing, and in this case that would be me. But there are many others. But we'll just have this sitting right here for the microphone preamp tests, just so we can bring the receipts. Okay, so let's play this, find out.
Hi, time for a rant about microphone preamps.
Let me know if this is voice or the video is too quiet. Thanks.
This is a microphone, and then this thing is a microphone preamp.
No, that's an audio interface. Some audio interfaces have microphone preamps. The interface that I'm talking through right now does not. It only has ADAT inputs. It doesn't even have analog inputs. It does have one pair of analog outputs for headphones, and that's the headphones I'm listening to right now. But it's an audio interface, doesn't have mic preamps. Also, not all mic preamps are audio interfaces. You know, back in the day, a mic preamp was just the thing that made your microphone louder on your console, and they didn't even have audio interfaces back then. But anyway, sorry for being pedantic, but here we go.
But this isn't called a microphone preamp, right? It's called
Because it's not a microphone preamp. It has microphone preamps.
an audio interface. So there are two parts of an audio interface: the microphone preamp.
No, not all not all audio interfaces have mic preamps. There's two parts maybe to that mic preamp if you want to divide it that way. I wouldn't divide it that way, but you could. You could say this has got the microphone preamp, but that one also has combo inputs that you can use for DIs or lines. We're not going to get anywhere if I get this pedantic, but when you're talking about the preamp rules all, hopefully he's not talking about sound. He's probably meaning like, without it you can't do anything. Then good. But when you're talking about stuff like this, precision matters.
And the ADC, the analog to digital converter. First, we're going to talk about the analog to digital converter because it's used in many ways. Whenever you have an analog voltage with fluctuations,
just in case, I'm going to pull up also the analog to digital converter measurements. Okay, again, people love talking about this stuff. Very few of them actually test what these things actually do. And when you do, you find out that the majority of them do exactly the same thing. And yeah.
you're going to use an analog digital converter that will take those fluctuations and turn them into zeros and ones,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes.
So we're only going to talk about the analog to digital converter in this thing. And these days, well, this thing is probably 10 years old. They're very small. They come on an integrated circuit on a little chip. And, excuse me. So yeah, they're like 50 cents, 10 cents, I don't know. I mean, they're very inexpensive. In the video I just did about the Rode NT1 5th generation, they're using a 50-cent chip that does analog to digital conversion. So how does an analog to digital converter work? It takes an analog voltage, a voltage that's fluctuating, and it converts it to zeros and ones. Now, all analog to digital conversion circuits need around 1 volt to work. In other words, it's like a hose, right? Like if you're going to run like a water wheel with a hose, you need a certain amount of pressure to get the wheel to spin. And it's the same way in an analog to digital converter. You need a certain amount of pressure and voltage to start writing those ones and zeros, right? A certain
This is going to an interesting place. I don't know that that's true. I mean, I know for a fact that some analog to digital converters need a whole lot more, but I think he's right that some could run on a volt, 5 volts for sure.
amount of pressure, and that's we're going to say 1 volt, right? So if you don't have 1 volt, then you can't write zeros and ones. But fortunately, your analog to digital converter generally, well, plugged into the wall, it's plugged into the computer. Let's just say the computer, the USB, it's getting 5 volts, right? So 5 volts is way above 1 volt. So there's plenty of volts from the power going from the USB cable to take that analog voltage to create a 1 volt, 1 to 2 volt range or whatever, right? And convert that into, digitize it, to quantize it, right? It's no problem for the analog to digital converter to do that. No problem whatsoever. But, and this is the big thing that the manufacturers of these devices don't want to tell you. It's super easy to convert your voltage, a 1 volt voltage, to like a zeros and ones, right? But it is not easy to bring up the voltages from a microphone to that 1 volt range. So remember, you have the ADC on one side, I should put it like this, right? The ADC on one side, and you have the mic on the other. The mic is producing about 100, like this mic right here, the dynamic mic is probably producing around 200 to 500 microvolts as I speak, right? 5,000 times less than that. It's like, as far as the preamp is concerned, as if I put this mic 3 football fields away from me, right? And now I'm speaking and I want to amplify my voice so it sounds like I'm talking right here. I mean, that's the distance is huge.
This is I don't know the exact numbers, but this is true. And we do have those arguments that you just can't get enough gain from a 5 volt mic preamp. That can be true. You want to bring up a what do you call a SM7? Actually, this RE20 right here. My mic preamp gain is pretty much near the top just for this this amount of gain. And this is actually on a mic preamp that's plugged into the wall. This is getting 120 volts regular AC mains, and even it doesn't make that much gain. So that's why you see people putting cloud lifters and stuff on things. But well, I don't know where he's going with this, but let's take a look here. Let me find a 5 volt mic preamp on here. I think I have a couple. Didn't. Oh yeah, here's an 18i20. Do those plug in, or is that like a Scarlett? Shoot. I don't know that I put like a newer Scarlett on here. I'm pretty sure that the 18i20 is doesn't plug in though. I think it's USB. And in that case, I mean, here's the Octopre. It's looking pretty much exactly the same as the 18I20. Let's look at this. I mean, it's flat to like 0.2 dB, right? And I'm getting enough gain. I wouldn't say I'm getting tons of gain. I'm not getting SM7 levels of gain, but it is true that you may not have enough voltage to get super high amounts of gain, but the amount you do get, it's enough for most applications.
Is tremendous. It's so tremendous that you can't even do it with one transistor, right? So transistor, just like the vacuum tubes before it, the triode tubes before it, I mean, they're basically an amplifier. There's no one transistor that can take the voltage from the mic and put it into 1 volts completely accurately, and then you can digitize it. You need 2 transistors. They need to pull all kinds of tricks. It is super, super difficult to get the low voltages from a microphone up into that 1 volt range. Super difficult. But of course, you sell what you can do easily. You don't.
Well, just because something's difficult doesn't mean that you can't put it in a cheap box. The difficult part is figuring out how to do it in the first place. Yes, it's difficult to do, but people figured out how to do it, and now they do it. I mean, we can't say that this mic preamp can't actually amplify that. I mean, let's find a junky one. So way back in the day, yeah, some of these were bad, our dual MP. Let's see, one of these ancient, what is this one? 19I20 Octapre 896. Okay, I think I plugged that one into. Okay, here, M Audio Fast Track. This is definitely a 5 volt interface. Flat to within plus 2 dB. Okay. See what else are we looking at? Yeah, it's flat at all gain ranges. So here's, I think this is noise. It's down like 120 dB. Or is that distortion? Can't remember. Let's see. This might be noise. Yeah, I mean, it is so far down there. So it definitely works. I don't know. You can't get insane levels of gain out of them, but it definitely
Sell
works.
what you
Even
can.
way back then. I don't know how long ago. Somebody want to Google this or Wikipedia this or whatever. How long ago was the M Audio Fast Track USB made? I'm thinking that was a very long time ago. I think that was made still when I was in Arizona, so that was quite a while ago.
Do that's difficult, and that's the thing that just drives me crazy. So, talking about, oh yeah, 32-bit fixes, clipping. You don't need the gain knob. All this kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
okay, that doesn't have anything to do with mic preamps, and I know it's frustrating when somebody goes, "Well, what am I worried about? It's 24-bit." Well, that doesn't matter until you get into the converter. So sure, that is kind of annoying. You're not worrying about 32-bit floating point clipping, but you're not getting 32-bit floating point audio into your from your microphone, right? I mean, the real world is fixed.
Stuff that is just so dead wrong. And it's not that I care that it's wrong. I'm not like here to say, oh, you're bad and you're wrong and I'm right and this and that. That's not what irritates me. What irritates me is that I want to take what I've learned and I want to pass it on, just like other audio engineers want to pass it on. But we have a culture of young people who just can't think for themselves. I mean, it's not true. I mean, it's always been this.
Yeah, well, look, those are the guys who believe all the microphone preamp myths and buy all this bajillion-dollar mic preamp for no reason, and all the other gear they think they need to have. Oh, you can't use a software compressor. We don't know actually how it works. So you need to use the hardware one. No, we know pretty well how these things work.
This way. So like take the movie Spinal Tap, right? Where he goes in and he said, and the guy says, "Oh, what do you think of your amp?" He goes, "I love it, but it now goes up to 11." He wrote 11 on the amp. So even when I was a kid, you had people selling hi-fi equipment and musical equipment making these outlandish claims. So there's nothing new here. I don't mean to say it's like you're young or anything like that, but this is always a problem
Well,
in
the
society.
outland. Okay, come on. Let's be real. The outlandish claims are made by the guys who claim that certain mic preamps have magical properties. I mean, the guys who are making interfaces are mostly, I don't know, maybe I can't say mostly because there are a lot of interface manufacturers who make some crazy claims about, do I say it? Clocking, right? They always talk about this magical clock stuff. But in general, they're just following research that's been done. How do you make a microphone louder? How do you make an analog to digital converter? Let's put it in a box and hopefully make some features that people need, like a little switch so you can turn it into a DI. I know people take issue with me calling direct inputs on audio interfaces DIs, but it's a DI. All right.
Society where you're taking some technology, you're making it into sort of a religion, and you're divorcing it from the physics that are behind.
Yeah, that's the people who claim magical stuff about mic preamps, the people who claim stuff about tone wood on guitars, the people who say a real tube amp. Okay. Oh, I know that's gonna burn some feathers.
It. And then when people use it, they get bad results, or they can't really get good results because they don't understand how it works. So if
Yeah, that again.
you listen, if you believe that your 32-bit float recorder, if you believe this thing, that you're going to be able to go out and record audio, let's just say whatever, somebody's singing, and you will get the best audio possible, and you can fix it all in post, you can go do that, but at some point you can realize you're wrong. If you
Well, that has to do with the fact that that's not, when we do vocals, we usually expect them, depending on what kind of vocal it is, but you're talking about one shaka away from a mic. You're not talking about something 12 feet away. It, I can tell you that if I tried hard enough, I could take that Zoom recorder. I'd only use one channel of it. I'd put that right in front of somebody's mouth with a popper stopper in front of it, and I bet you I get good vocals out of it. Just fine. But not at the way they're meant to use is far away.
if you really wanted to get the best audio of somebody singing, you would really sweat the details on what mic you're using and what gain you're using,
Yeah.
right? How much amplification you're
And that device actually makes, look, I'll tell you from experience. Actually, anybody who has one of these Tascams or Zoom recorders or whatever, you know that your problem isn't too little gain, right? Every single time you put these things up and you think you're safe turning it down, you end up getting a couple clips, don't you? Seriously, honestly, don't you end up with a couple overs on these things? Try and draw them out, but a low gain is not the problem with these.
you're
I think most of these are condenser mics, by the way, so you're also already operating with an amplifier in there.
setting your preamp for. That's where all your time would be focused, not the digitization. Again, once it's at 1 volt, this thing can do it till the cows come home. And I bet you this thing isn't any worse. The whole ADC component is nothing.
I should just let the converter weirdos deal with this guy because they believe in all kinds of magic about this converter or that converter. I'm actually, let me just pull up my stuff again. So here's a bunch of converters compared from the Apogee Rosetta, way at the high end. It's purple line, pretty flat. Probably the flattest of the bunch. An 88,000, one of the most hated analog to digital converters in the world. This is a Behringer one. It's within 0.1, it's within 0.05 dB of the Apogee. All right. So converters are pretty flat. I will agree with him there, but most people wouldn't. And definitely his friends on the Magical Mic Preamp side. I don't know if he's on the Magical Mic Preamp side, but we'll see. We're halfway through here.
So it's very hard to get, and I'm going to show you some slides now. I did some cutouts. These are companies that produce preamps for recording studios, right? The Neve preamp, right? I mean, thousands of dollars. To buy a used one, like a vintage one, for it's like $20,000. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah, those are not. I'm going to be fired for this, right? An El Cheapo modern mic preamp is capable of producing a much closer output to the original microphone signal than one of the old Neves was. They were amazing for their day, and they most of the time they're pretty flat. But again, that's the problem is people are claiming that they're not flat. They're claiming that they're doing something to the sound, that there's this magic happening. In fact, if I go to, the culmination of all that Neve stuff, here's an AMEC 9098. Actually, let's maybe we can compare these. The AMEC has a tiny boost, maybe +1 at 20 kilohertz. Nothing major in the pass band, but it's flat. That's the AMEC 9098. Okay, that is the Neve of all Neves. I know people want the older ones because argument from antiquity, but this is Rupert Neve's final child. I know he made stuff after this, but I mean, come on, this is a Neve of if whatever he really wanted to come out of that mic preamp, that's what it is. So just because something costs a whole bunch, and just because it was made back in the before the civil rights era, doesn't mean that it's like magic. The fidelity of a El Cheapo modern mic preamp. Look, where's the 88,000 right there. Look at that. It's flatter than the AMEC, man, and that is a cheapo. That's the Behringer one. It's like $200 for 8 channels of analog to digital and digital to analog and mic preamps. That's super cheap. Okay.
There are all these companies that you should realize if you're a young person or just somebody new to this. There are tons of people building preamps. They're thousands of dollars. Now, is it
So what? That's because tons of suckers will pay thousands of dollars for a preamp that isn't any better than the El Cheapo one that they got. Sometimes they can get more gain. Many times they can do things like distort and stuff. If you want your stuff to distort, if you want it to come with a compressor, what is that one he's showing? The Manly Slam. This one also comes with limiters and some stereo link thing. But I mean, still, I'm not going to pay $10,000. Remember back in the day when I had all this stuff, I used to take the pictures in front of the racks and racks full of Manly and Neve and APIs and all that stuff.
Be new to this. There are tons of people building preamps. They're thousands of dollars. Now, is it worth it? I don't know. Like,
No.
could I hear?
No. In fact, you shouldn't say I don't know, because they're not doing anything different, except for when they are trying to do something different than actually making that microphone loud. Let's talk about what is the goal. Okay. Most of the time, to me, or at least one of the goals should be, and this should be your minimum barrier of entry, you better be able to make that mic preamp just the same as that microphone, but louder. That's its job. Don't add anything. Don't take anything away. Just make that signal louder. Then you can deal with it however you want to deal with it.
Hear a difference? I don't know.
You don't know because you didn't measure. I measured. They don't do anything in magic.
But some people can hear the difference.
No, they can't. You got to prove that. Okay, so here's now where I'm getting. This is where I get triggered. When you make claims like that, you have to be able to back them up. Some people can hear the difference. Oh, really? Can they? Let's take a look at. The thing is, don't just make claims about crap. Test things. So, if I were to go to Google and I do SOS, they did an actual test of what people who claim to be able to hear all this magic junk. They tested all these different mic preamps, And in the end, they end up picking a art like El Cheapo mic preamp as the best one. But the funny part is, if you go to read this, go to Sound on Sound preamp postmortem, and you'll see that in many cases, people use completely opposite terms to describe the same mic preamp. Like when we were doing the Reaper summing engine. There is no summing engine. It's 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 2 = 4. But people were saying, "Oh, it's super warm and solid," and other people were going, "No, it's too bright and brittle." So people are using completely opposite terms to describe the same thing. That's when you know your thing isn't doing anything, which is what you want. So look, in this case, somebody says shrill and slightly harsh, bright, clear, and dynamic for the same mic preamp, as somebody else put smooth, tubey top end, neutral and rich, especially roasty, more warmth than body. This is what this guy's claiming. People can hear the difference. They can't. You got to bring the evidence if you're going to make a claim like that. There's several of these mic preamp shootouts where all the same stuff happens. People end up picking like Mackies and stuff, the stuff they all say they hate.
I don't think people go out and spend $5,000 for nothing.
Yes.
There's some.
I'm just going to leave a comment here. Yeah, I gotta leave the comment, but anyway,
Something there. That's
this is what do you call it? The God of the Gaps argument from personal incredulity. You say like, well, I mean, all these people couldn't be wrong, right? I mean, how many times is that argument from popularity, appeal to popularity? I mean, this is just logical fallacy after logical fallacy. No, people think they have something. This total Emperor's New Clothes effect. You tell everybody this clock made everything sound better. They all think it sounds better. Go watch a video on the McGurk effect. I've showed it way too many times on this channel, but
where all the quality comes from. In fact, that's the first thing I really learned about microphones. I did all kinds of tests. I tried all kinds of VSTs, all kinds of ways of changing the audio to get my voice to sound like it would sound just from like a raw, say SM7B going straight into my thing. I tried for hours and days and months. I could never get it to work. Then one day I accepted a very simple thing, which you should. The microphone is everything. That's the start. That's like a ton of it. If you want a certain sound, you have to get the right microphone. You can't get another microphone to sound like, I mean, yeah, you can, I guess you could trick somebody, but if you get a certain sound from a certain mic, then generally that's the only mic that can do it for you. Sorry. That's why there are 1,000 microphones on B&H, because people who are really into it know that.
I'm gonna let that go. I don't want to make this any longer than it has to be.
You want a certain sound, you buy the one out of 1,000 mics they have there that will give you that sound. Then once you get that sound, then the preamp. What preamp are you going to use with it, right?
So here I am using testing several different mic preamps, and they all make the same tone. So unless you're going to bring evidence that they actually do sound different, you're just making stuff up.
Preamp will be different. So even though now you may like the sound from the $5,000 preamp, and that's what you have to have, and you go buy it. But who knows? You might say, you know what? The sound coming out of this, even though I know this preamp isn't great and it's actually distorting it, I like it. So you use that, right?
Not distorting. Who says it's distorting? Have you tested this? Well, look, this Octopre is distorting. At minus 100 decibels, which ain't gonna matter in any way, shape, or form. Is that distortion where they're testing impulse responses? The most expensive one's got some bias noise down to the bottom, right? Man, it's not distorting. You got if you're gonna claim it's distorting, you gotta show that it's distorting.
right? That's what you would use. So again, this rant is about, I just get tired of people saying that pass on this marketing nonsense that like you have like a microphone voltage that
Again,
comes.
the marketing nonsense is from the magical mic preamp claims. You just did it yourself. You said these people must be hearing something, or else they wouldn't be spending $5,000. No, they're not. They're not hearing anything. This is what they're hearing. They're hearing. Yeah, it's funny. This guy actually found the Mackie. This one. They picked the Mackie VLZ Pro. Less detailed, slight edge, not as detailed, slightly dull. Neve, API. These guys have no idea what the hell they're talking about. Yeah, I love mic preamps too. I love mic preamps. I want them as clean and distortion free and noiseless and as flat as I can possibly get them. And in order to do it for actually like this one right here, this RE20, in order to get them up there, you do need more voltage. And you do need to be a little bit careful about what you're doing. And, you know, you could argue whether or not transformers the way to go. That would add some expense. Does solve a lot of problems. But to say that these mic preamps aren't flat and that they're not distortion free, and they're not, for the most part, less noisy than the most expensive mic preamps you could buy back in the day, and many of the ones you can buy today, is crazy. I mean, you got to test this stuff. Yeah, I mean, in fact, in this case, this guy's just making claims. He's not testing it at all. But when you do test it, you know, I wish, I don't know if SOS has done this, but I would love to see them actually just run the numbers, run these things through Room EQ Wizard or some other audio analyzer and get, you know, how flat are they? How much noise are they making? How much distortion are they making? What's the bandwidth like?
Comes out of your microphone, and you can go to 2 ADCs. You can't, because it's just too low of a signal. So you're starting at, you know, 100 millivolts or whatever, right? Or 1 millivolt or 100 microvolts, whatever. You're starting. You go into that first amplifier, that first transistor that boosts it by 100 times, right? Like, you still don't have a voltage ready to go to your ADC. And you're saying you can take this voltage that's still basically just right out of the womb, right? And you're going to put it into another piece of electronics that, again, can't deal with small voltages.
But it can deal with small voltages.
That's going to look at it and say, you go to this ADC or you go to that ADC. No, you can't.
Who is saying this? I mean, the proof is in the pudding right here. We run these tests, the mics come out fine. I don't know what this guy is talking about. Like, I understand his rant is that, okay, and we've had this too. There are a lot of compromises you have to make with the 5-volt interface. If you're just powering this thing from USB, you know, I hope you're on condenser mics, because that's going to make this a whole lot easier. And, you know, George Massenburg would talk about it. You know, why is he using these types of transistors? Because they can handle more voltage from the input, and that's one of the reasons. But if you've got a decently solid signal, that 5 volts, it's going to be enough. I mean, like I say, there's some compromises, but noise, distortion, bandwidth, and frequency response aren't among them.
Voltage is too small. You get a very small voltage from the microphone, and the people that make those preamps, that make those $5,000 preamps, right, they are sweating every little, you know, coulomb of power, or
they really aren't. We've known how to make mic preamps for a very long time. Most of these mic preamps you're looking at, even Massenburg's, you know, which I mean, if you want to talk about as far as they go, it may be API, you know, the 990 chip. But didn't Jensen make that thing? I'm not sure. all of these circuits were done by about more than 30 years ago, I think, maybe 40. They're not sweating this. These are known factors. The part you might be sweating is how do I get even better tolerances of these components and stuff. The crazy part is, honestly, especially when you're building discrete mic preamps, which to me were, back in the day at least, they were the pinnacle. Those discrete, there's a compromise you make for discrete components as well, that has to do with distances, and it really comes up as noise and tolerance. Like when you grow a chip together, you can be pretty sure what's gonna happen tolerance wise. So it's a hard one. I think that the very best discrete mic preamp of today, this is something we should test. We should actually build one on the channel just so we make a complete discrete Class A mic preamp. I'm betting that the best discrete mic preamp we could build today is going to be noisier than a middle of the road 5-volt interface mic preamp. It's sad because I spent so much time making discrete Class A mic preamps, but man, the performance, I mean, I can show that the audio interface one is going to have crossover distortion. But I can also show that it's so far down there that it's not going to matter. But if somebody is worried about it, I can zoom in on that section and I can say, hey, don't buy this mic preamp because it's got crossover distortion. Whereas this discrete one that I made, it's going to cost you some money. It's not going to have any crossover distortion. It's going to have more overall distortion, I bet. And it's going to be, I almost am positive that it's going to be noisier. I doubt it's going to be as flat, but there's a way to make them pretty flat. Yeah, see, again, that's it. Define best, man. Yeah, exactly. So, to me, I'm just looking at fidelity, and it seems like he's claiming that the fidelity is going to be better on these, not necessarily discrete. Again, a lot of the mic preamps that people are lusting after, not only are they not Class A, a lot of them aren't discrete. It's funny because back in the day, people would come up to our SSLs and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to use those SSL mic preamps," blah, And then nowadays people are like, "Well, I wish I had an SSL mic preamp." Like, man, you guys are crazy. But yeah, so when I say best, I don't usually use the term best. I mean most accurate, right? And I can define that. Lowest noise, least distortion, appropriate bandwidth, and flattest frequency response.
Variation or fluctuation of voltage. They're dealing with something that's just so small, and they're gingerly trying to bring it along and to amplify it into a way that is really truly transparent to the mic or gets them the sound that they want.
And yet, we do that all the time with 5-volt mic preamps.
They can't anywhere in that process basically take it and start analyzing it, because then you lose it. It's like Heisenberg's law. You can know the vector, or
you analyze the output. Okay. This guy needs to bring his receipts. He needs to bring some evidence. This is costing me skate park time, and it's just not worth it because it's just the same old nonsense. So I am going to go ride my bike because I didn't ride yesterday, and I'll see you guys later. Thank you for tuning in, Man Network. Accurate. Yeah, and yeah, okay. So, we used to have this broken API mic preamp that almost self-oscillate at 2.5K. But anytime you put it on a snare and the drummer heard it in his headphones, he goes, "That's my snare sound." So, hey, that's, I mean, of course you could do that with EQ or whatever distortion, maybe, but that sound that made the drummer immediately happy and poked right through the mix, that was the best mic preamp for the job right there in that situation. So, yeah, best is not necessarily flat, but either way, if you're going to make claims like this guy's doing, you've got to bring the evidence, and probably should define your terms. But yeah, it's that somebody actually took that mic preamp in to get fixed, and luckily we said, hey, don't touch that. Fix the other channel. They just clean the other channels up. Do not fix that mic preamp, please. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll see you guys later.